Alright, we're going to do a OpenCATS installation walkthrough in this video for people running the Centos7 operating system. I'm a little conflicted about this because CentOS is not something that home users typically throw on their machine, and these walkthrough videos are a little too simple for most technical people, so I'm not sure that there's really a target audience here, but I'm going to do it anyway. I hate CentOS. I'm just putting that out there. This thing is far more of a pain in the butt than most Linux distributions. Because it's based off Red Hat Enterprise Linux, because it's locked down, stable, secure, because it is a business distribution. So that's fine, that's fair game. So let's get this started. So I'm going to start with pulling up the OpenCATS documentation. So we're going to just Google OpenCATS documentation. It'll be the first result, usually OpenCATS-documentation.readthedocs.io. Now let me take a step back here. This is essentially a clean system on a VirtualBox, or VirtualBox virtual machine. I have done a couple practice installs to try and work through some kinks and get the documentation correct before the video, so there'll be a couple things that won't match up quite right, but for the most part, this is a clean install. So we're going to go through the LAMP installation and then the OpenCATS installation. So let's click this, get to the documentation. On the left side, right here, install Centos7. So, assuming this is correct, we ought to be able to go through this verbatim and copy and paste. If you are in an environment without GUI, if you're doing a VPS or something like that, you'll want to have the documentation either printed or on a second screen. And if you're manually typing all these commands, pay attention to the details. There's a lot of dashes and dots that are easy to overlook and a pain to track down after the fact. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to update the system first. We always do that. And then we're going to install MariaDB. Okay, MariaDB's in. We're going to start the MariaDB service. I'm playing with the microphone. Sorry if you hear the noise. Now we're going to enable the MariaDB service so that it starts on boot. And we're going to go through the SQL Secure installation. Now typically you would not have entered a password yet. This probably still has my password, so this next thing will be a little different. Yes, so what you should see would be more in line with what's on the documentation. I've already done this, so I'm entering in a password. Okay. So I am not going to change the root password. If you have not set one already, then you're going to want to hit yes and set your root password. The password I'm using, for what it's worth, is MariaDB password. I use that through the documentation and the walkthrough videos. So, remove anonymous users. Yes. Disallow root login remotely. Yes. Remove test database and access to it. Yes. Reload privilege tables. Yes. Alright, we're done with that. Scrolling down, we went through all of this. Now we're going to install Apache. We're going to start the Apache service and enable the Apache service. Okay. CentOS uses a built-in firewall. I honestly don't know anything about this stuff. I got this from a tutorial. I think this is correct. It may not be. Now, again, I've already done this, so it's already enabled. You will not see that. Same thing. Now we're going to reload the firewall with the new rules. Okay, check for success Apache. We're going to open a new tab in the browser and just go to localhost. This is our CentOS Apache screen. Apache server CentOS. So we're good. It doesn't match the picture, but you should still see that. Alright, PHP 5. Now, CentOS is a little older and a little more stable, so they actually run a default PHP version that is too low for OpenCATS. So instead of using the PHP included with CentOS, we have to add a repository and install PHP 5.6. So this information is all in the documentation. One thing to note, if you've got a split screen like I do, occasionally there will be a line that goes off the screen, so we need to maximize our browser to get that whole line. Okay, that repository is in. Now again, it says already installed. That's because I've done this before. You should see something different. It's installing the repositories. Now we're going to install PHP 5.6 plus 1, 2, 3, 4 PHP extensions. Then we're going to restart Apache. And we should be good. So we're going to create an info PHP file right now using Nano. If you are a V snob, why are you even watching this? Alright, so I'm going to copy this information, paste it in here, Control O, enter, Control X, done with that. Restart Apache again. Okay, now we're going to open a new tab and we're going to go to localhost /info.php. Alright, here's our PHP information, PHP 5.6, that's good. Scroll down, we should see our extensions that are installed. GD, LDAP, MySQL, and SOAP. So we're good. Everything's installed. Back in the documentation, we have to set up our MariaDB database. MariaDB password. Okay, so I'm going to take a side note here. There are different passwords we're using for different things. In this walkthrough, it would be really good to write down the passwords. So we have already set a MariaDB root password. That is to access the MariaDB program on our system. That gives us the ability to create users and databases within MariaDB. Now we're about to create an OpenCATS database with a user and a password. That is a separate thing. And then later there'll be a user and password for the OpenCATS system itself. So those are three different users and passwords, three different functions. If you want to use the same one for everything, that's up to you. If not, make sure you know which one is which, because it's an easy thing to get mixed up. Now I'm just going to copy and paste. You are going to want to likely change the MariaDB database username right here. You'll also want to change the password you're using right there. And you'll probably want to change the database name, but these are all fine to use. There's just a little bit of a security issue. That's not a great password. So I'm going to copy and paste. Another thing to note with MySQL MariaDB, you must have the semicolon at the end of every single statement or it won't work, including the exit. You have to have the semicolon. These are all lessons I have learned the hard way. Probably everybody. Now this user, oh shoot. 1 second while I sort this out. Okay, problem solved. It's actually really strange. Now, I got an error because this user already exists. You should not have an error. There is, it appears, a small formatting issue. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I will correct it before this goes up. So, create user. Good, we are back on the instructions. Now we are creating the OpenCATS database, and again you can change the name to whatever you want. This is what we're using for the documentation and the walkthroughs. And then we're going to grant privileges to the user on the database. Let's see if this gives an error again. It does. So weird. 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to have to just type this out. Everything's correct. There's just some sort of weird, maybe I pressed the wrong key. I don't know. And the semicolon. So again, these errors, assuming I've corrected the documentation, should not happen to you. So it's sort of irrelevant. If you follow the documentation, it should go smooth. So we're through all this. Now all we have to do is type exit with the semicolon, and we're done. Database setup, user setup, permissions granted. Now, We're going to go ahead and install Git. And then Composer. Alright, we're going to change directory into our web directory. And we're going to download the OpenCATS files using wget. If you get a wget error, you may have to install wget. I can't remember whether it's included or not, and that is going to be sudo yum wget. Install that, and then the command should work. We're downloading the OpenCATS files. Okay, now if we do ls to list, we can see the OpenCATS compressed file is in our directory. Now we're going to untar it or uncompress it. And if we hit ls again, we'll see our OpenCATS directory. So we're going to change directory into that. ls, these are our OpenCATS files. So it's there, it's good. Now, one thing to note, you can change this directory name to anything you want. This is going to be part of the web address unless you're really good and you know how to change all that, which I'm not going into. You can rename this. Now, if you rename it, you have to have consistency through the install process. If it's called ABC123, then you need to make sure every time it has this in the installation instructions that you change it to whatever you named it, including capital letters and letters that are not capitalized. It is cap sensitive. So be very careful with the directory name. So we're going to move on. We're going back over here and we're going to let Composer install some dependencies. This is what Composer looks like when it's working. If you get any red squares, you've got some errors you're going to have to sort out. Sometimes Composer errors come from PHP extensions that are missing. So you may have missed one when you installed PHP with the extensions. Any other errors, you're going to have to get on Google. Okay, so Composer's done. That looked good. Server and directory permissions. This right here, CentOS runs SE Linux. It is a pain in the butt. I don't really understand a lot about these concepts, so I really had to play around. I don't think these security settings are the most correct, but they work. And I don't think they're horrible. So we're going to cd space dot dot. We're going to go back into the main web directory out of the OpenCATS directory. We're going to give Apache ownership over OpenCATS. Going back into the OpenCATS directory. And we're going to do some file and directory permissions. And if this is a jumbled mess and I'm all kinds of wrong, leave a note. I'd be happy to make changes when I can confirm them. I'm positive there's a better way to do this. But for now, this is what's happening. Okay, we're good. Resume indexing tools. There's 4 of them. Anti-word, unRTF, PDF to text, and HTML to text. 2 of them are in the repositories. 2 of them we have to download and manually install. This is all in the documentation. All you have to do is follow the instructions. Oops, I just did 2 lines. Huh, alright. Get rid of that extra $sign. You shouldn't do 2 lines like that. You should do 1 line at a time. Alright, first one is installed. I have to maximize the screen because this goes off screen. So if I hadn't, I wouldn't have gotten that whole line. If you're running split screen, you may have to do that. If not, you should be okay. Okay, first 2 are installed, the rest are in the repositories. So we're just going to go ahead and sudo yum install those. And then I'm going to remove the files that we downloaded because we don't need them. They are installed. Okay, I'm going to remove those 2 files. And that's it for the terminal. So now we're going to go into the browser. New tab, we're going localhost. And we're going to do OpenCATS, the folder exactly like we set it. Good. This is where you should be. Right here, blue link, installation wizard. Click that. Ooh, green. Green means everything is right. Green means it can access what it needs. It's got all the PHP extensions. If you have orange, generally that means you're missing a PHP extension. You can continue with orange and install cats, but you will lose some functionality depending on the extension. Red generally is because permissions aren't correct and it can't write or access something. You cannot proceed if you see red, so you have to go back and fix something. But we're green, we click next. Now this was the MariaDB database information, so we set up OpenCATS database, OpenCATS user database password. For the password, it's almost always going to be localhost. There are instances where you'd have to put an IP address here, but if you're in that situation, you ought to know what to do. All green. All green is good. We can proceed. If you get red, you may have entered something wrong here, or you may have to set up your MySQL MariaDB database incorrectly and have to go back and fix that. We're going to do a new installation. These are our resume indexing tools that we installed. These paths are incorrect. We have to fix that. This is on the documentation. The paths are spelled out here. So we're going to do /usr/bin/. Now I'm just going to copy and paste into the rest. And then test, all green is good. Continue. Email, I'm not going to do that. I will circle back to that at some point, but for now I'm clicking none. The email system does work within CATS. You can send emails from CATS. Alright, time zone. Do not forget to set your time zone, or every timestamp is going to be weird. Month and date, US, UK, US zip code. I'm not going to install it. If you want to, click that. Okay, so CATS is done. It's installed. Default username and password, admin. We're going to change that. Don't want to leave that. Okay, so let's just change that real quick. We're going to click Settings, My Profile, change password. Admin is the current one. New password is what I'm going to use for the new one. You should pick something else. Change password. It kicks us out. We relog in. Admin. New password. And we're good. Look at this. Shiny new applicant tracking system waiting for your information. And that's it. Let me know what you think, or any issues in the comments or on the OpenCATS forums. Thanks a lot.